Hello everyone. Why is Paxton pits so good for Aeshna isoceles? That is the question and the subject of this talk. When I first joined the BDS Dragonfly Conservation Group, the late and great Norman Moore was its convener. He highlighted the risk of local extinction of this species due to increasing sea levels and the potential influx of seawater into the low-lying areas of Norfolk, which at the time were its stronghold. He proposed the introduction of water soldier plants, which is a favourite plant of this species, into the Throughout Europe. Why is Paxton pits so good for Aeshna isoceles? That is the question and the subject of this talk. When I first joined the BDS Dragonfly Conservation Group, the late and great Norman Moore was its convener. He highlighted the risk of local extinction of this species due to increasing sea levels and the potential influx of seawater into the low-lying areas of Norfolk, which at the time were its stronghold. He proposed the introduction of water soldier plants, which is a favourite plant of this species, into the dikes and ditches in a small area of fenland. The project never took off for various reasons. In 2011, a single brown dragonfly was observed by Steve Brooks patrolling the margins of one of the lakes at Paxton Pits. It was a Norfolk hawker, and it was now in Cambridgeshire. Since then, its population has gone from strength to strength. In this talk, I will discuss its natural history at Paxton and look at the factors that have enabled it to increase and be so successful at this site. Throughout Europe, Aeshna isoceles is known as the green-eyed hawker. This name and Norfolk hawker are in common use in this country. Personally, I prefer the Latin name, Aeshna isoceles, and I will use this throughout this talk. Both males and females are brown with clear wings. The female tends to be lighter brown. The eyes of both become greener as they mature. These features differentiate this species from brown hawker, which has brown wings. The nature reserve at Paxton Pits comprise a series of lakes formed by gravel extraction. The eastern side of the reserve is bounded by the River Grey Twos. If one takes the meadow trail from the visitors centre, you pass through a series of meadows, arriving first at Rudd Lake. Continuing past Rudd Lake, you then come to Hayling Lake, where during the summer months, much of the water surface is covered by the leaf rosettes of water soldier, Stratiotes aloides. It would not be surprising for you to see many damselflies in this area, mainly variable and red-eyed damselflies. On a warm day in late May and throughout June, it is not long before you will see one or more male isoceles patrolling over the water soldier. For those of you who have the 2014 Atlas of Dragonflies in Britain and Ireland, there is a paragraph written by Pam Taylor in the species account for isoceles that states, "The spread inland and the discovery of a breeding population in Cambridgeshire represents a significant milestone for this species and may offer hope that further range expansion will occur." In Norfolk and Suffolk, Aeshna isoceles favours ditches and dykes with abundant water soldier, and at Paxton pits, this is the area where you will see the highest numbers. Whilst water soldier appears as a mass of green when viewed from the side, it creates a characteristic plant architecture forming small pockets of water between the rosettes. These areas provide protection for larvae during their development by limiting access to predators such as fish. On several occasions, while looking into the water in early spring, I have seen larvae hiding between the leaves of the water soldier rosettes. Other invertebrates are seen moving around in these areas, so there appears to be a plentiful supply of food. Note the green hydra attached to the surface film in this photo. By early May, larvae have completed their development, having gone through a series of instars, and they are preparing for emergence. As they change from underwater respiration to breathing air, they sit at the surface with the upper part of their body above water. Emergence typically occurs in mid-May, and many exuvia can be seen clinging to the water soldier plants about 10 centimetres above the water. Emergence usually occurs during the hours of darkness. This photograph, which shows no more than half a square metre, has 8 exuvia. There is usually a time window of 1 to 2 weeks before emperor starts to emerge, so one can be relatively confident that all the exuvia at this time are isoceles. Occasionally, newly emerged adults fail to take their maiden flight and remain next to their exuvia. These individuals are very vulnerable to predation. Some are damaged or disfigured, indicating that something went wrong during emergence. These individuals are unlikely to survive. The maiden flight is directed away from water, and the immature adults can often be found in nearby meadows and areas of scrub. There have also been records in woodlands some distance from Paxton. Here you can see a female that has roosted overnight in the nearby buttercup meadow. Roosting adults cool down and get covered in dew, and they need to generate warmth in their flight muscles by wing whirring before they can take flight. The hinterland and surrounding meadows are very important feeding areas for adult dragonflies. Here you can see a mature female resting in the meadow in an area where she's been feeding. Adult dragonflies will often roost in bushes and hedgerows adjacent to the breeding areas. Here you can see a female isoceles that has roosted overnight deep in a rose bush. It is well hidden, hanging from a stem, and the coloration, and particularly the green eyes, enable it to merge into its surroundings. Some areas of hedgerow are especially favoured by roosting dragonflies. Here, 2 male isoceles suddenly appeared out of nowhere, having crawled out from a roost site. Hedgerows that get the early morning sun are good places to look for them. I still wonder if they can predict and select these areas the preceding evening. When the adults are active, there can be no doubt that the wonders of dragonfly flight is a key feature contributing to their success. Males will repeatedly patrol areas of water soldier where they are most likely to encounter females for mating. They also have to defend these areas against other males, as well as avoid predators, as you will see later. Male isoceles intersperse their patrolling flight with short bursts of hovering. During hovering flight, one pair of wings is on the downstroke as the other pair is on the upstroke. Known as counterstroking, this enables them to keep the head level and stable while investigating suitable areas for females. The manoeuvrability and agility of dragonflies in flight is a joy to watch. They twist and turn in flight, enabling them to catch prey, avoid predators, see off other males, and intercept females. As they turn, the body twists while the head remains level at all times. As this male makes a sudden turn away from the camera, its head remains level while its body twists. The legs are tucked up either behind the head or under the thorax. Notice also how the leading edge of each wing remains rigid and the trailing edge of the wings flexes to enable it to manoeuvre. Following many interactions with other males, they start to incur damage to the wings from each encounter. Males will try to bite each other in an attempt to reduce the fitness of rivals. Some damage may also occur from the males flying in amongst the serrated leaves of the water soldier plants. The ultimate goal for males is to find and mate with females. Females, however, spend far less time at water, arriving mainly to oviposit in the areas of water soldier. They typically fly low down, flying and settling between the rosettes. When ovipositing, females try to remain hidden and out of sight to males, and often also human observers. The sound of fluttering wings is often the first indication of the presence of females egg-laying somewhere in the water soldier area. Males will attempt to form tandem with any female that reveals herself. He grabs her behind the head using his anal appendages and then tries to fly off as quickly as possible to avoid the attention of other males. Females coming into oviposit often have other ideas and try and avoid the male's attention. They curl their abdomens in an attempt to refuse the male. When the male tries to approach the female from below, she uses another type of female refusal behaviour by raising her abdomen. Here, the camera has tracked a female trying to avoid the approaching male. When the males are persistent and try to physically grab the female, she will use twisting movements of the head to prevent him forming a tandem. I've seen this behaviour on several occasions, yet I can find nothing in the literature about it. I've been unable to find any reference, even in publications such as Philip Corbett's famous tome, Behaviour and Ecology of Odonata. This might be the first recorded observation of this behaviour. I would therefore be interested to know if anyone else has seen it or know of any reference to it. Once tandem is successful, copulation follows in flight, and the pair fly around in a somewhat jerky motion to begin with. Once the female accepts the male, she clasps him with her legs. Copulation then goes through a series of stages where sperm from a previous mating is removed by the male. The pair settle, and after sperm removal, he starts to transfer his sperm. Here you can see the movement of the abdomen while this process progresses. They finish copulation and the female appears eager to start ovipositing. So they fly off and the female will then go on to oviposit alone. She lands on a water soldier plant and uses her ovipositor to cut into the leaves of the water soldier leaf to insert her eggs. She moves down the plant, ovipositing as she goes, until all of her abdomen is submerged. Other plants are sometimes used. Here, a female oviposits into water plantain at Rudd Lake. Back at Hayling Lake, a small patch of water lily is also used in addition to the water soldier. Males will feed on the wing while patrolling, and the abundance of damselflies and other small insects in the area of the water soldier presents an almost unlimited supply of food. A male consumes a damselfly, carefully manipulating the prey with its mandibles and discarding the wings. The remains of an unidentified prey insect goes in at the front end, while an earlier meal comes out at the back. Dragonflies, and in particular Aeshna isoceles, face a range of predators at Paxton pits. Moorhens move through the water soldier in search of tasty morsels. Emerging adults and larvae can be taken. Coots have young families at this time, and a dragonfly will provide a substantial meal for the chicks and the adults. Mallards also have ducklings at this time, and I've seen ducklings chasing and catching damselflies. There is a large colony of house sparrows at Hayling Lake, and one can often watch them searching the water soldier for prey. Here, a female has caught 2 damselflies, and if you look carefully, you can see one is a red-eyed damselfly and the other a variable damselfly. This cock sparrow has caught 6 damselflies in its beak. This not only demonstrates the level of predation exerted by sparrows, but is also a good indication of the abundance of prey available to dragonflies such as Aeshna isoceles. Hobbies are the ultimate avian predator. This one flew past just as I had the camera set up and ready for dragonflies in flight. This was an unsuccessful flyby, as it probably had more of an eye on me rather than its potential victims. Another hobby, taking a dragonfly in late June. I was not sure, but this could either be an isoceles or an emperor that were also on the wing at this time. Note the 3 legs bitten off and falling through the air. Water soldier goes through an annual cycle where the plants sink during the winter and float during the summer. In the winter and early spring, the rosettes have sunk and are below the water surface. Many plants have produced offsets and turions, enabling them to propagate and form new plants under the water. As spring progresses and summer arrives, the rosettes of water soldier are floating again. This photograph shows just one small area of Hayling Lake. If you recall the earlier slide with the 8 exuvia, Just contemplate and imagine how many dragonflies this area could support. As the autumn approaches, the rosettes of water soldier again start to sink, as seen here in September. The larvae of Aeshna isoceles will again be developing underwater in readiness for emergence next year. In the past, fishermen have attempted localised clearance of water soldier, as seen here in 2015. I think it was pointed out to them that such action was illegal as they were disturbing the habitat of a legally protected species. This area of Hayling Lake is adjacent to that shown in earlier slides. It underwent water soldier removal operations a few years prior to COVID under special licence from Natural England to retain areas of open water for fishing interests. A somewhat misguided action that actually breaks up the plants, resulting in the small offsets and turions breaking off and sinking. This facilitates the spread of the plant, which returns with renewed vigour a few years later. This is great news for dragonflies, but I suspect not for the fishermen. This photograph was taken in the summer of 2022, and earlier during May, approximately 500 plus exuvia were counted across the expanses of water soldier on the lake. There were very likely many more than this, making Paxton pits a very significant source of more dispersing adults in the coming years. I came across this reference where dragonfly larvae were found to be the top predator of toad tadpoles. In this study, which was based on Aeshna cyanea, southern hawker, the larvae appeared to suffer no adverse effects from the toxins found in toads. I can't see any reason why this shouldn't equally apply to Aeshna isoceles, and as this video shows, there is abundant prey for future generations of dragonflies at Paxton. So what of the future? Paxton Pits is a brilliant site for dragonflies and rightly earns its place as a BDS hotspot. The high numbers of Aeshna isosceles at Paxton results in adults dispersing to new areas. At Felmersham Nature Reserve west of Bedford, it has been recorded in small numbers over the last 5 seasons. A female was recorded ovipositing in water soldier in 2022. From this and an increasing number of records elsewhere, it appears that the species' future may now be assured. So why is Paxton Pits so good for Aeshna isosceles? That was the question posed at the start of this talk. In summary, the key factors are good quality water that promotes plant growth and invertebrates. It needs to be free from agricultural runoff and other chemicals such as dog flea treatments. It requires a specific plant architecture such as that provided by water soldier. Isosceles has a strong yet not exclusive association with water soldier, and there seems to be little doubt it was the water soldier that originally attracted it to breed at Paxton and continues to support a growing colony. It needs a diverse hinterland of meadows and hedgerows for feeding, roosting and maturation. It also needs an abundant supply of invertebrate prey for both the larvae and the adults, and Paxton provides this in abundance. And finally, it needs sympathetic management practices that look after all of the above. Whatever your interest, watching dragonflies can bring about well-being and happiness. And for me, I can't think of a better way to spend a warm summer's day. There is still much we can learn about these fascinating insects, and I hope this talk has provided some insight into one species. For now, I would like to thank you for listening and wish you happy hunting over the coming summer. Maybe, for some, it will have inspired you to study these insects further.